Hi guys, so today I wanted to talk through my personal reasons for wanting to pursue financial independence. Now, this will be different for everyone and everyone has different reasons for it, and I think that sometimes if you're not already on the path, then you may not really understand why someone is on a journey to financial independence. So I wanted to talk you through my reasons and sort of the thing that's keeping me going. A lot of people ask me sort of how I have the drive and the willpower to do as much as I do, because I work a lot of different jobs, and mainly it's the reasons I'm going to outline here. So my one-line answer is, well, I want to be financially independent. So I focus on this and it drives me forward. But underneath that phrase of I want to be financially independent, I have all of these different reasons. So let's have a chat. Now, these are in no particular order of importance. I haven't tried to order them in terms of importance because I think that a lot of these are just as important as each other. So yeah, let's have a look at what my reasons are. The first reason for me is not having to stay in jobs that I don't want to be in just because I have to have money. I want to be able to choose where and when I work. Now, I've been in jobs before where I've been absolutely miserable and I couldn't leave because I had bills to pay, whether it was debt when I lived with my parents or whether it was mortgage, rent, whatever it was. And it's a miserable feeling because you wake up every day dreading going to work and you're miserable for the majority of your time, because you do spend a lot of time of your life at work. So the idea of being miserable just because you have to pay the bills is, well, miserable. So for me, the idea of financial independence, it doesn't necessarily mean that I want to stop working forever. Like, I think I've stopped calling it the early retirement because whilst I do want to retire early, that's not my main goal. It's being able to choose what I want to do. So for example, if you don't follow me on Instagram, you might not know I've just signed up to do a 2.5-year course to be an animal behaviorist. So that's something where I'm probably not going to make as much money as I do working in finance, but it's going to be something that I really enjoy because I absolutely love animals. I love helping animals, and I wanted to be a vet, but I couldn't do it because the idea of having to put them down is just unbearable to me. So when someone suggested this to me and I spoke to our vet and she said that's a brilliant idea and that we actually need animal behaviorists and things like that, I researched straight away and I found a good course. So I don't know how I'm going to fit it into my time, but it's going to be something that I enjoy doing, and hopefully by achieving that financial independence, I'm not going to have to worry about staying in jobs and where my next money is coming from. I will have that underlying baseline of money for the bills, and then everything I'm earning can just be a sort of comfort blanket. Now, the other really important thing for me is not being told when I can have time off. So the thing about working for companies and for other people is you have to ask for permission to take time off. Now, I'm lucky enough that for where I work and how I work, most of the time there's no issues with when I want to have my time off, but there's still the limitation of that. I think it's 5 or 6 weeks that I have, I can't remember, which I know is a lot more than, for example, people in America get. But to me, it's still a bit of, well, actually, what if I'm feeling awful and I just want to relax and I feel burnt out, etc. Being constrained to that 6 weeks a year, for me, I hate. So if I'm working for myself, I can say, actually, I'm going to take 3 months off in that year. Obviously, maybe not consecutively, but I just have more flexibility because time off is so important for your well-being. So talking of well-being, I stress so much. I'm a really stressy person and I take everything to heart and I take my job seriously, and I find working in finance very stressful. And I'm at a quite senior role, and therefore that comes with a lot of stress. So generally, the more senior you are, the more stressful your position. So again, it's about cutting out that stress from my life. Now, the next reason is wanting to spend time with family. So in my almost 30 years of living, I've gone through ups and downs, and I've realized that the most important thing we have is family, because as much as we think that our friends aren't going to leave us, they probably eventually will. And you can't rely on partners, you can't rely on friends, but you should be able to rely on your family. And I realize that not everyone's family situation is the same, and some people are in awful situations, and I get that. But for me, I'm fortunate enough and thankful for the fact that there are no issues like that. Like, every family has issues, obviously, but there's no like massive problems, and therefore family is important to me. And again, being constrained by when you can have time off and what you can do, etc., I really don't like. So I want to be able to just think, oh, actually, I'm just going to spend some time with my family today. Especially as my parents or grandparents get older and need more help, having the flexibility to just take the day off and go and help them do something, I think is really, really important. And I watched something recently and it really drove that home, because it said something like, oh, well, you know, you might think you have like 20 more years with your family, but out of that 20 years, how much do you actually spend with them every year? Do you spend the week with them? 2 weeks? So actually, if you think about it, if you spend 2 weeks with them every year, that's only 40 weeks that you have left, which then becomes far more depressing, because that's less than a year. So thinking about things that way, it just makes you realize that actually spending time with family is really important. The next thing for me is working 8 to 9 hours a day on top of commuting. So there was a time where I was commuting almost 2 hours each way, and then working, 8 to 9 hours during the day. And it's just so draining. And to be honest, my mind cannot concentrate for that long. And I work better if I work, for example, for 4 or 5 hours a day, and the rest of it is just procrastinating or relaxing or whatever it is. That's my best sort of way of working. But obviously my job tends to be a lot of meetings and a lot of work where I can't really do that. I can't just say I'm going to work for 4 hours, like deep work, and then just chill. So working for myself, or some sort of work where I have more ability to not have to focus so hard every day, will mean that I don't feel brain fried all the time. I actually think it's scientifically proven that our brains can't do deep work for longer than 4 hours a day. I think it's 4 hours, don't quote me on that, but it's definitely been proven that you can't concentrate for 9 hours every day. The next thing for me is that it doesn't make sense in my head to work for 50 years just to then be able to enjoy your retirement for a couple of years before you get so fragile or sick or something that you can't really enjoy it. When I really think about it, it literally makes no sense. A lot of pensioners are scraping by and have bad health and not enough money, and I just don't want to be in that position. I want to be able to enjoy life a bit more before it gets to that. And there's actually a TED Talk on YouTube that you can watch. I'll try to find it and link it down below, but it's basically a TED Talk about mini retirements. And I remember watching that a couple of years ago, and it really, really resonated with me. And it's this woman that talks about the idea of taking mini sabbaticals, mini retirements every few years. And I think it's a brilliant idea. And having the flexibility to do that, having the money to say, I'm taking a year off, is really, really awesome. So yeah, have a watch of that and you'll see what I mean. And the final reason for me is having financial security. So we've seen so much happening, in the last few years, and there's so many other possible things. So for example, obviously the last 2 years, the world's just gone upside down. And we saw all that panic buying and all the shortages and things. And now there's more shortages of food and massive inflation and everything else. And climate change is happening. There's going to be more shortages. And who knows if we'll end up having a war or something. I just want to be in a position where I don't have to go, oh my God, I have nothing to eat. So I want to firstly get to a point of having the financial security to buy stuff, but also having sort of the ability to stockpile some supplies and materials and food, but also to grow my own. So one of my sort of dreams for my Poland plan and my financial independence is that in my big garden, I am going to grow some of my own food. So Obviously, I'm no expert and I'm not going to just turn my whole garden into a food growing place, but the ability to grow some stuff just takes some pressure off of having to rely on the supermarkets. And who knows, maybe eventually buy something like gold, just to keep and then sell if times get hard. I don't know. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Those are my reasons. I would love to know if any of yours are different to mine, because I'm always looking for more motivation. So if there's anything that I haven't mentioned that is a driver for you and your fire journey, let me know in the comments below. Hopefully this has been a useful video to watch, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.